Hello, everybody.
Welcome.
Thank you. All right, enough clapping. No more clapping. But thank you for being here, and thank you.
Thank you.
Jenniffer, also, she doesn't tell you, she's one of my closest friends. So, yeah.
I'm so grateful.
Okay. Well, I realized years ago that online education or communicating online was the way of the future. It's just the way that, it's a way of teaching. I also realized that for me personally, because I'm passionately a teacher, that online learning was a way of being able to teach without being restricted in the way that I have been in a more conventional setting. So that if I created classes online through my own institute, CMed, that I could develop the courses that reflected what I wanted to teach and to communicate the type of knowledge, not information, but knowledge, that I had accumulated through the years as a medical intuitive and eventually as a contemporary mystic. And oftentimes in the settings, in a more professional setting that is shared with the public, like a conference, I have to be more cautious. Let me put it that way. One of the reasons I and my business partner, David Smith, created CMed, which is the Caroline Myss Educational Institute, was because education, I am so passionate about the passing on of knowledge and the difference between knowledge and, jump in whenever you want.
No, I want to hear
Right.
this.
The passing on of knowledge for me is a passion that I feel that to pass on the truth that one acquires in life to the next generation or to people who are eager to learn that truth is a holy obligation. So, we are living in times that are so critically different. In my opinion, we're living in the most that never before in the history of human civilization have the elements that we are experiencing now come together. Never before has the alchemy of change had the configuration of ingredients that we have now. We've never had the loss of so many species simultaneously in front of our eyes. Never before has climate change been what it is as an active ingredient in a participation of what is happening in our lives. Climate change sits at the table of politics, of finances, of what is actually happening to the redistribution of population. Weather patterns. We are going to have and are having ecological refugees. Never before have we stood on the precipice of entering a galactic community. Never before have we shared this moment in time when all the world religions are ending. They are ending not because they are failing us because of all the terrible people like priests and imams and all those.
And you're a Catholic and you love Jesus, so let's put that out there.
No. If you look at it that way, you're missing. You are losing your skill to manage what's really going on. They're ending because it's their time to end. Because they're no longer serving what we need to do to become one planet.
The structure of religion.
They prevent us from becoming one planet. They are preventing. They are not serving the unification of humanity. And further, they have served us so far. But here's what's true. how many of you, if you went to the doctor and the doctor said, here's some medicine, you have a sick kidney, but if you take this medicine, you're gonna kill your heart. You want it? Right? Would you take that medicine? You'd have to be crazy. Why? Because you want medicine that serves the whole of you. Is that not so? Mm-hmm. Right? And the reason you now think holistically, do you not think holistically? The reason you do is because somewhere in the last 50 years, you've had a download in your unconscious. And that download is like a program in your computer, the way you download a program. And it reshaped your thinking while you slept. So that what makes more sense to you now is to think holistically than to think in pieces, in fragments. Now you automatically, unconsciously, homeopathically see your world as wanting it to be integrated. Your body wants to be integrated. Your emotions want to be integrated. Even if you don't unconsciously get that every part of you is working to become integrated. It's actually irrelevant that you don't get it. That's exactly what's happening to you. You are behaving in the micro the way the earth and the world is behaving in the macro. What is in one is in the whole. And the fact of the matter is, world religions teach separation and not integration.
You just said micro and macro. I want to ask one quick question about that. When we were, you were teaching at Omega last fall, and I believe you will be again this fall. You need to experience Caroline's teachings. A woman in the audience raised her hand and said, "Oh, I'm feeling the pain of the globe. I'm so empathic, and like everything hurts, and I know it's from North Korea, and like, you know." And you just stopped her and you said, "Okay, talk to me about who sleeps next to you." And she was like, "What?" She said, "Does the person sleeping next to you support your spiritual journey?" And she couldn't answer that question. She said, "Well, he doesn't get it. Think about your immediate surroundings and who is there and are they supporting you before you start worrying about North Korea." And that pinned her ears back and she got it. Because we are going macro before we can go micro. And there is an incredible effect of choices. You know, you talked about in a TED Talk recently about choices and 5 things we need to do differently. Incredible TED Talk. And a lot of the choices we think are more important, like, should I buy that house? Should I get married? Should I get divorced? They're actually less important than the smaller choices we make every day, like, should I be there for my children? Should I be present for my sick aunt? These aren't the award-winning choices by the outside, but they are with your soul on the inside. Would you agree?
Yes, absolutely. More significant and even deeper ones than that. But I'm going to bring this full circle because I realized I just took myself for a walk. And
they're not going anywhere.
What
We're good.
I wanted to say was, because I feel that this time is so significant and there's so much to teach and all of it is so relevant, I started these online courses. And I call it reflections because reflecting is something we don't do. How many times have you said, I need to take that into reflection? I need to deeply think about this before I make a choice. I need to think about how what I'm about to choose will affect the lives of others, because every choice I make affects the lives of others. I never hear anyone say that. And because I realized I don't hear people say that, I truly wanted to initiate a classes, for one thing, on what would be a form of contemporary spiritual direction, where the courses I taught went deep as well as wide, where I allowed myself a way of reaching people on matters of faith, as well as matters of knowledge, as well as matters of truth. So for example, at the end of July is my next class. All my courses are online and they're all available. And what I love about Reflections is that I teach as though you're sitting with me in my office. And in my next class, I'm trying something very bold, but I tell you the truth, I have not been as excited about something in a long time. I'm so excited about this, I can hardly stand my body. No, it's the truth, I'm not kidding you. I have put together a 9-day online retreat because I think that if you knew how powerful your soul is, if you knew how significant it is for you to attend to the health of your soul, which is not a religious object, but it is your mission control. Your power comes from your soul. If you really understood that, which is part of this retreat, you would attend to your soul. You would vacate your life in the way that we vacate our life to take care of recharging our body and our minds and our emotional life. And the reason vacations don't really work, and that we tend to come back feeling like we've had fun, but we're not really recharged. We're not really recharged, is that we never attend to the soul while we're on these vacations. We never really ask ourselves, am I the same person this year that I was last year? And if not, what's changing? And how should I address that change? That is a deeply soul-filled question. That's not a psychological one. That is not an emotional one. That's a soul question. That's the type of question you remove yourself and you retreat into yourself. So I've constructed this 9-day retreat. The first 2 days, you're online with me. Then I've put together 5 days in a sequence that matches the path your soul would take. And every day, you're going to receive instructions from me to guide you each day. The first day, you go into yourself and you go through a day of observing the chaos that is normal in your life so that you get to see chaos. There's a lot of other stuff that goes to it. Then the second day is holy listening. The third day is fasting. The fourth day, and it goes on and on, the fourth day is after you fast, you fill yourself with holy words. You eat. You nurture yourself. And on the fifth day, you evaluate, who do you want to be? And then the next 2 days, the last 2 days, you come back with me online. And what I want to impress on everybody is that the capacity to evaluate, to retreat, to evaluate the health of your soul is not something you have to go away. You can do this, and we should do this on a regular basis, because the reason we feel like we're losing our minds, that we're not good, that depression is at a skyrocket, has moved up exponentially, is because we neglect this part of ourselves.
Do you think if more people reflected internally, I mean, we all talk about drive-through meditating and 5 minutes here, and we phone it in, and one of the things you discussed with me when we first met, 2001, Sacred Contracts had just come out. Anyone remember Transitions Bookstore downtown? Yes, loved Transitions.
Wasn't that great?
Love it. So I was working for CBS at the time, and I remember I had to go between like covering the blizzard of the morning and the fire in the afternoon to interview Caroline. And I asked her about sacred contracts and about finding your passion, because I knew that saying everything sucks back to you was not my divine purpose, but it was my current employed purpose. And so what I asked Caroline, and here I dog-eared this because chapter 8 of this book. Anyone clap your hands if you read this book? Okay. So what Caroline told me, and I wanted to repeat this to you all, what I've discovered, Jenniffer, is that most people are terrified to take a look at all they can be. And the reason is because they'd have to act on it. People are afraid of the responsibility that comes with knowing yourself more deeply. People will even sabotage their own success because they're afraid. You're afraid of the hard work. And then I said, maybe they aren't afraid of success, but afraid of not being able to make a living. I know television isn't my dream job, but it's paying the mortgage right now, and I can't throw that away. Yes, you can pay the bills doing what you're doing now, she said, but if you don't follow through with your contracts, you will pay for it physically and emotionally. If you move in the direction of following your purpose, the rest will fall into place. As soon as you move into your contracts, people who are supposed to come into your life will show up. I truly believe that our lives are choreographed and flow from a combination of choice and destiny. Choice and destiny. Now, you told me that when contracts came out, sacred contracts came out, it was like a lot of people took that as the green light to be narcissists are us. Because it was like, I'm meant to be a TV star. So they just packed up and tried to do, fill that void again. Selfish instead of self-first. There's a very big difference. The message you said in that was not selfish. It was saying that when you take the steps to do what you really feel in your inner GPS is your calling, that stuff will show up. And that still holds true today.
Well, I'm not sure that I would necessarily measure stuff showing up.
I mean, people and circumstances and doors opening, possible phone calls looming. Maybe it's not stuff. I would say energy flow goes in the right lane, the correct lane. Would that be a better way to put it? No? Okay.
No.
Tell me the way to put it.
No. I think, because I've learned, the way I would put it is that it is that nothing in your world changes. It's this, that you start recognizing flow. It's not that the objects start coming in. Right. It's not that suddenly gifts start falling because if you look at it that way, then what you're saying is, finally I'm being rewarded. Right. And heaven doesn't work that way. It simply doesn't. What does change is that you start it's you who finally says, I keep looking for rewards. I keep looking to have things delivered to me as proof that finally I'm seeing things. I'm destiny because I expect things to be no.
You don't think if we make decisions out of fear that causes more fear?
Yes, but here's the thing. If you woke up one day and said, I just can't live fearful. I just can't. It's that decision that makes your world look different. It's not that all of a sudden, look at this, I'm in the flow. Right. It's that decision that makes your world look, now you have the courage to actually see your world differently. It's not that suddenly the curtains, all of a sudden, when your world, it's you who have the courage to recognize, I'm not in the wrong place. I've been in the right place all along. I thought it was wrong simply because I was frightened, and in fact, when I'm frightened, every place is the wrong place. When you're not frightened, every place is the right place.
And when you're not entitled, that's a great word to remove.
Do you see what I'm saying to you?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yep. Which is why when you're frightened, you fantasize. You create the narrative, if only I lived there. If only I had more. You start telling yourselves narratives that the problem is where you are. The problem is that you don't have enough. The problem is you don't have enough money. The problem is you don't have enough this. It's always the lack. And in fact, if you got a hold of the narrative and said, I got to stop talking to myself like this. And if you stopped talking to yourself like this, telling yourself, I do have enough. I have all that I need. All of a sudden, that horrible narrative would stop, and you'd realize, I got exactly what I need right now to do everything I have to tell myself I'm supposed to be doing something other than this. I'm not. I'm not. And what it is I'm supposed to be doing is exactly all that I should be doing. I have to stop with the fantasy that I was born for something special, and that I was born to be noticed by everybody. Because I wasn't. No one is going to notice you. And that you have to tell yourself the truth, that if we all died today, only a handful of people would notice. And life would go on for them 2 days later, and no one would care. And you really have to get wrapped around that truth. That the world would go on, life would go on. Nothing would change if we died. Nothing. We're not entitled to anything, and that's the truth.
Why do you think we're so wrapped up in, as a society, that whole ego structure of what I do matters versus who I am? I mean, who I am in this moment is more important than who you are in your resume, but yet so many people attach title and awards and job status to their entire identity. I mean, I see this all the time. It's like, oh, it's not enough to just be driving my kids to soccer. Well, yeah, it is. Like, I had to ride my bike to soccer. My mom didn't drive me. You guys are, like you said, all the kids are wrapped up in helmets and they're,
I think it's a combination of a lot of tragic things.
Okay.
One is the media. The generations since the 1950s are the only generations that have grown up with television. Nobody else has been cursed like that. And that formed a quality of ego so that we have both been raised by parents and by fictional characters that co-parented us. Now, in my generation, and I'm only 40, but in my generation, people in my generation were co-parented by Walt Disney, by Mary Poppins, by My Three Sons, by Bewitched, and you can see all of our co-parenting on Nickelodeon today. But the point is that in my generation, what was introduced was the archetype of the magical child, which was never let loose upon the collective unconscious, ever. And the result of that was that for the first time ever in the history of humanity, ever, children had a family within their family to compare their family to. And so they had this perfect ideal family that actually talked to them through a box. And then they had their parents who really came home. So they would look at this fictional ideal, and they were always disappointed. How could you not be? My mother did not sleep with pearls on, like Donna Reed. Okay, and I did not have a nanny that floated down with an umbrella and made my bed by snapping her fingers. Okay, and I would, really thought, I remember looking out the window one time for Mary Poppins. I was 15. No, but I mean, as a kid, because I thought it was so cool, right? Or Mouseketeers and just this magic castle. That kind of thing. And I now have given this lecture on this so many times and said to so many adults who will tell me that they are the wounded child. And I've asked them how much of your wounds came from too much exposure to magical children on TV. That where you thought that was your ideal. And you compared your parents, hardworking, good people, to that and decided you were neglected. And that looking back, not to undercut the fact that people have wounds from that time, because they do. But the fact is, we have had influences that no other people have ever had. And it's formed fictional fantasy entitlement. The second thing is, and you know, one of the person who created, was the most influential in the idea that you should weigh 4 pounds, was the British model Twiggy. She came out, and all of a sudden, this anorexic blonde from Britain just absolutely imprinted what the ideal figure, and the beautiful women from the 50s, Rosalind Russell and Marilyn Monroe, and all of those women with their Chanel figure, was no longer the ideal woman. Now you had to be anorexic, flat-chested, and fit into a 00. And it took one woman, one model, one 17-year-old girl. And what was imprinted on people was ideals of lifestyles that simply didn't exist. And a level of fantasy was created, fantasies about lifestyles. You know, when I remember reading Grapes of Wrath, and it was the study of the Depression era, the Dust Bowl, all of that. And there's a scene in Grapes of Wrath, of course, where the family's driving cross country and a train goes by, and what they called a bum. The bums were riding on the train going west to find work. And how humiliating. And here's the key word about why we've created fantasies about our specialness and our pathological fear of being humiliated.
It's also why we don't heal.
Precisely.
Humiliation.
But I'm going to just finish this, and then I'll be quiet. But in this book, Steinbeck so brilliantly discusses the breakdown and what it was like in America during this time. And it really affected me. And the psyche of the humiliated American. And it wasn't but a few decades later when becoming a bum was a goal in California, a beach bum. When in fact not working became a goal, and we developed an entirely different set of values. When not working, leisureliness. When we developed a whole different idea about what was important. And it was about leisure, it was about not working, it was about what we could do to suspend somehow or other of what it was to be important in a very different way. We began to fantasize about what life was about. And that's when we started to create this idea that just by virtue of being born, we have something important, that we are important, that we were born for something special. How do we know? I don't know, but I just know it. And by creating this fictional bar in ourselves, we don't even have to try to achieve anything. Specialness is supposed to be delivered to us. And until it's delivered to us, we don't really have to try anything, but we do get to be disappointed. And this is the root of so much depression, because I haven't found specialness. And it's not been delivered to me. We get to be angry. We get to take it out on people, and more to the point, blame others for the absence of specialness. It must be my parents' fault. When I hear parents say to their children, "You're so special," or when they tell me my children are so special, I'm going to go, la, 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 la. Ugh, what a horrible thing to say to someone. Because you don't realize how you're cursing them.
Because you grew up with intuition and you knew what houses were like a sonar, like a bat. When you were 7, you told your mom you were going to be a writer. When you were 9, you told your mom you would never marry. And yet your mom didn't say, oh, Caroline, you're so special.
No.
You
No,
earned
thank you,
the
God.
right to have this title of medical intuitive, now mystic, now incredible author and teacher through your work and your body of work, not because somebody was labeling you special.
Well, when you talk like that to someone early on, and you give them this idea that I don't even have to try, my life will come to me. What you're doing is you're dismantling their survival skills, their fundamental instincts that they need to survive. So their gut instincts don't develop. Their capacity to trust themselves. And you know what one of the major crises are today for people? They don't trust themselves. Number one, they don't trust themselves, and 2, they don't have faith in themselves. How many of you actually have faith in yourself? Deep and abiding faith. Okay, so how many of you give yourself actually know that you can say something to yourself and you will not break your word to yourself? Absolutely not break your word. You will not compromise. How many of you never break your word to someone? Never's a big word. Behave yourself. How many of you absolutely know what it is you believe deep down in your soul? Don't have a faith crisis. Because I'll tell you, that's the major crisis for people. That they are not sure what their values are. They're not sure what they truly believe. They're not sure they can trust themselves. They're not sure that they can trust themselves in every circumstance. They'll say to themselves, don't you dare step out of line. They're not sure they'll say to themselves, you're going to do this tomorrow. And they're not sure that they can trust themselves to keep their word to themselves.
Liars never heal, you say.
Liars don't heal.
Mm-hmm.
And here's something, I asked you that, and you didn't stop to reflect. You answer fast because I asked. But if I had you on a retreat, if I had you in my retreat, what I really would say to you is, you can't answer that question fast. It's not possible because you don't know yourself that well. I've just asked you a deeply profound soul question. Do you trust yourself?
How can we get better at that?
At trusting yourself. You have to first examine, it's like belief. You have to first go through the door of everything you do not trust about yourself. And you go through the back door.
So this is never about anything outside of ourselves, like, oh, I don't trust that guy.
No,
this
no,
is
no, no,
all
no, no.
ourself.
No, it's all
Start
about yourself.
First with you.
It's like,
okay.
Where do you not trust yourself? Because all of us have some place where we don't trust ourselves. Like maybe you could say to yourself, I know I'll use myself. I have a sugar addiction. Now, it's not funny. When you really have an addiction, it's not funny. And I never knew I had that. And it's really serious. It's serious. Because and my particular addiction is honey. And if I told you that I can go through a quart of honey a month, here's my witness. Here is my witness. I'm telling you, it goes like this, right? I am not kidding you. So when I go for my physicals every year, I am now at the point where I'm borderline diabetic. And my doctor said to me, I tell you, this is serious. It's not funny. And my doctor said, what the heck? What is this? And I said, it's my addiction to honey. And she looked at me. And she put it down in my medical. She said, I have never met anybody and she started laughing. So I said to myself, that's it. And there I am in bed, that's it. No more honey. And I'm talking to myself like that.
Could you pray the honey away?
So
No, I mean it. Like some people try to pray an addiction away. I want to ask you, could you pray an addiction away? Do you believe we can pray an addiction away?
Well, I got there eventually,
Okay.
and the answer is no.
Okay.
But all right, I hid the honey. I told somebody to get it out of the house, and I went out and bought more the next day. But I bought this little jar, thinking, okay, I actually go to Whole Foods, right? After asking this dear friend of mine named Maria to take all the honey out of the house when I wasn't there.
Note to self, never get you honey for Christmas. Wow.
Why am I even owning this, right? And then I go to Whole Foods, and I know exactly where it is in Whole Foods. I know what aisle, I know where it is. So I run past there with the cart. I don't walk, I ran past that aisle.
No eye contact.
No eye contact. And I came back and got one. I couldn't leave the store. I couldn't leave the store. I started to think, I just need a little one, just a little one. I'll just wean myself off. Okay, I don't trust myself yet. But I'm obsessing. I'm like, all right. So, I mean, you could think, it's like, if I never saw alcohol again in my life, it wouldn't matter to me, ever. I don't do drugs like that. But there are some things, see what I mean about trust? So all of you have something. And if you said to yourself, that's it, I'm done tomorrow. Maybe you're different, but I know there's something where trusting in ourselves is built, and you begin by saying, where do you not trust yourself?
In your experience with looking at people through the years, now we're talking over 30 years of medical intuition, over 12,000 cases. You worked with Norm Shealy, Harvard brain surgeon. You know, he would call you. In fact, we were just recently talking about the first case he called you about. Do you remember telling the story, what it was?
Yeah.
Tell the audience about this.
The
throat.
So when I first met Norm, and he wanted to do this medical intuition, and he had more interest than I did. He's got a patient in his office in Springfield, Missouri, and this is how we worked. And we still do this to this day. He has a patient, and he'll call me because I need permission, and I need the age. And I just did a reading for him a couple of days ago. And I don't want birthday because I'm not an astrologer. And this is how we started.
When you hear the name, does it put up an energy for you? Is that why the name is important? Does it feel like you make it?
You know what I think it does is it connects the wire.
Got it.
And the way I want you to look at it is, do you remember when you were a kid in school and you learned latitude and longitude? Mm-hmm. Do you remember how the world looks on a globe, latitude and longitude? Picture that, and picture yourself standing in the center of the globe with all the latitudinal and longitudinal lines. And I want you to picture those electrified, and as if those are lines of communication through which you energetically, like telephone wires, because that is the way it is. So that when someone asks for a reading, or when you send prayers or grace, you like hook into that grid, and the light moves fast, and you find that person. And so when someone gives me permission, I find them on the grid, and and it just works like that. It's like a street address. And the data transfers to me. And so the first time I did a reading with Norm, I wasn't sure what kind of, how much information on that person's street address I needed. So I said to him, let's start with his name and age. And as soon as I got this man's that data, I got the impression that he had concrete in his throat. Now, my education was very liberal arts, and the classes I did the worst in were biology and chemistry, whatever. I don't even take a chemistry class. I think the only science class I ever took was biology. And then with math, I had, as soon as math, the numbers turned to letters, I couldn't pass the class. Oh my God. So anyway, letters were for writing. So I thought, this doesn't make any sense to me. I couldn't get the concepts. So that was the extent of it. So when I was working with Norm, it turned out to be my greatest asset because I was completely blank. And I began to learn anatomy through him and through the body parts and diseases. So eventually, the man had cancer of the esophagus.
And then Norm would say things to you like, why do you think that is? And,
yeah.
And then that developed a whole other body of your work.
And that's what, Norm would ask, what do you think, do you have any ideas like what this man, the reason he has this, or how he could heal? And of course, I had no interest in helping anybody. Mm-hmm. Now, you really have to understand something. I mean, I grew up passionately wanting to write. I just told my friend Ellen, my dear friend Ellen, who's sitting right here, I just told her on the way here, we were talking about that British actor, George Sanders. You probably don't, because we were talking about suicides. And he committed suicide, and he was in a movie, and we were talking about, and he played the writer Somerset Maugham, who Ellen and I talked about how much we loved Somerset Maugham. And I said to her, and it impressed. I always just wanted to be a novelist, but I have no talent, and that was my passion, and the thing that I have talent for, a genius for, I have no interest in. And the thing is, I never even heard of it. And who ever heard about being a medical intuitive or a psychic, and who would want that kind of occupation? No, I want you to think seriously. Who would want an occupation where on top of what you do, people don't believe you do it? Okay? They don't believe you do it. And you have to always explain, how do you do what you do? When you're a writer, you don't have to explain that. You don't have to explain being a teacher. But when you're gifted with something, when you're skilled with something that baffles people, you oftentimes are met with, ooh, you're weird. Or you really do have to keep under wraps how actually good you are. Or what your life is like behind the scenes, in the privacy of your own heart, or how much you really can pick up, which I frequently keep to myself. Because I don't want to go that extreme with anybody. Because so often the impressions are past the bandwidth that most people's lives can handle. Like, I know, I've asked, why, I assumed when I started that everybody would want to heal if they could. When I started to gather data, I would think, oh, this would help someone heal, this would help, this would help, this would help. And the more data you have, the more you would apply and the faster you would heal. When in fact, my experience after all these years and thousands of readings is that most people, and I mean most, will not help themselves as much as they can. They will not. They will in fact sabotage their healing. Most people will not say to themselves, you better move your body and exercise. You know you're sinking your health. you know, you better do this. You better change your attitude. You better do this. Most people will not do that. And in fact, if they did that, they would increase the speed of their own healing. But they choose to remain in their suffering. And it's a conscious choice. And to that I now say that 80% of people's suffering is their choice. Because there are so many ways out. They know that they could change their diet. They know they could eat healthier, that they could move more, that they could be very different in their own relationships. They could give up power plays. They could be forgiving. They could be less stubborn. Stubbornness is responsible for more illness.
And resentment.
And that's a choice to be that way. It's a choice to need to win, to always be that way, to always have to get in the last word.
It's an identity. A lot of people.
It's a power game.
And they're woundology. Because if you become well, you've said this many times, then people would depend on you.
Yeah.
You can't ask for help.
Yep.
If you're well, if you're sick, then you have people checking in on you. Yeah. You have people asking. This just happened, actually. I had a woman that I recommended to a healer. She had a lot of diseases, and Crohn's was one of them. And she was getting a lot of benefit from this exchange, but then she stopped going.
Well, sometimes you're actually ill.
True. No, but I'm saying that she stopped going to the healer. People. Absolutely. And that, like you say, 80% of the people are ill but won't help themselves. There are lots of people that just get hit with cancer out of nowhere. There's children that are just hit with these diseases. A lot of there's genes. There's so many myriads of things. But for those who can help themselves but who won't,
right.
This is a huge epidemic that you deal with all the time.
Right.
In your workshops and everything.
And I'm sure many of you can, I'm just going to ask a question and be honest. How many of you can do more for yourself than you're doing? Okay, there you are. Okay, so it's by choice. And those of you who didn't raise your hands, raise them. Okay, thank you. Thank you, because you can't, never mind kidding me, you can't kid yourself. You can't kid your own health or your own life. You don't get away with anything. Just because you didn't raise your hands doesn't mean you got away with it. You better damn well know that. You can't get away with anything. So don't think you can hide from the universe, because you can't. And that's what's true.
Think about this. Do you want the doctor operating on you who's running on fumes, who is up till 4 a.m. doing their kids' homework, who had to go take the car to get fixed, who didn't go to their checkup? That's not who you want operating on you. Do you want that person flying your plane? No. So why is it okay for us to be on fumes? Why? We put ourselves last, and it's not okay. You become bitter, and you become resentful, and all these things, and stubborn. And we think it's in service, and that somebody's going to turn around and go, gosh, I'm so glad you did all those things for me. Yay, you.
Okay, so I have a question for you. My turn with you. What are the pressing issues in your life these days?
Here, I'm going to bring the microphone and put it in your face.
So talk to me. What are the issues that would bring you to a lecture of mine so I can help you in the next hour, or comment, or carry on?
Understanding the block I have in not doing more for myself.
What do you think it is? Make something up real fast. You know what it is. What is it?
Laziness.
Okay, there you go. You don't need my help.
But if 80% of the people are blocked, what is that?
What do you think it is? Make it up.
I don't know. It can't be just laziness.
Yes, it can.
In 80% of the population.
But I'm talking about you.
Yeah, okay. So health issues, not doing...
What's your benefit?
To being lazy.
Yeah, what's the benefit?
I can complain.
There you go. That's why. You don't want to stop complaining.
Because it's your identity to complain. Everybody
and who, you know what, and here's the thing. What you really have to know, those people are sick of you complaining, and that's what you don't get. Let me see if I can help you out. Those people can't stand your complaining, and that's what you need to know next time you see them. What you need to do is put yourself in their shoes and realize they're sick and tired of hearing you complain. They're sick of it. And when they hear you complain, they want to go la 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 la. And they want to leave you. Does that help you out?
She's actually nodding yes, it does help. But I think a lot of people in this room can relate to this. When you start that dynamic, it's your identity. We all have them. Raise your hand if you have somebody in your life that you know as soon as you pick up the phone with them, it's an energy vampire. Party of one, your table's ready, right? Yeah. Right. We all have them.
Yeah, go.
Thanks, Carolyn. There are times when I'm aware that I'm in a much more powerful awareness state and I can receive higher guidance more clearly than others. It seems like there's some level of softening that I'm still trying to understand to this higher guidance, but is there anything you can say about how to fully surrender to those states of receiving higher guidance more optimally, more of the time?
Hemi-sync meditation.
I don't meditate.
You don't?
I don't meditate. I've never meditated. I don't even know what that's for. Yeah, no, I have no use for meditation. But I pray a lot, okay? I don't think most Westerners meditate. But that's me, okay? But when it comes to, quote, higher guidance, this is where spiritual direction is so critical. It's important to work with a spiritual director to access what you are wanting to access and to develop that level of clarity that you're asking to develop. You can't get there without a spiritual director. Okay?
Even you have a spiritual director.
Yeah,
Yes.
I've had a spiritual director for 18 years, 2 hours a week. You can't get there without a spiritual director. It's not possible to navigate your own self alone. So if you're asking for exercises, you can't do it because your mind will just make something up. And that's what a spiritual director is all about, helping you navigate through your own fantasies. Navigate through the words that you want to hear yourself so that you can ultimately become clear, but that clarity isn't earned without you doing what I call in my own class in spiritual direction called Pebbles at the Well, where you learn what holy listening is, where you put your time in an inner silence day after day after day.
Is that helpful?
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hold on, I'm going to go back and make my way down, okay, guys? We have to not neglect the back of the room.
Yeah.
Here you go.
How would you direct someone that wants to, I guess, strengthen their protective energy? I think you explained when protection
Against what?
against living with someone with mental illness,
Oh.
for them not to overpower and bring you down, I guess. Does that make sense?
Well, of course it does. But I mean, here I have to ask you, what type of mental illness are you dealing with?
Bipolar?
But Jesus. No, it's not funny. I know what that is.
Right.
I know exactly what that is. I know to the family what that is. I know. Through personal experience, I know. and it is brutal.
Yeah.
Okay, so from my very personal experience, I have to say that I think it's one of the most difficult things in the world to live with bipolar schizophrenia. And I'm not even sure that there won't come a time where you have to decide if you actually can go on living with it, because it's that difficult.
It is.
Okay? Your own self-preservation. Okay, I'm just going to put that out. And I know, because we've had to make decisions like that in my own family. So I'm not telling you something that we haven't been through. It is brutal. Because it is a constant one-way street.
Exactly.
Okay? There's no two-way. It's a one-way street. And one of the protections is that you can get, it's like dealing with anything else that we call a disease, where you're supposed to sustain yourself by telling yourself it's a disease. And so that means the other person has no accountability, no responsibility, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a wrecking ball that gets to wreck the area, and then everybody picks up the pieces and picks up the shrapnel. You put the psyche together and you begin once again to hope that maybe this time, when the storm clears, this time it won't happen again. And then you wait for the dragon to come out one more time, next time. Maybe it's next time. How long will it be? Will it be 6 months? Maybe a year? Okay. I think that in our case, we have to, because we have to. And so we share the stress. It's not dependent on one person. We share the stress. That's how we survive. Now, if it's an only person, I don't know how to survive that without support. Then the caregiver must form a support system. I don't know how to recommend it through a church, through a network, through however you can get support. In my case, the family members are close and loving, and we're in touch all the time. But if we didn't have that, okay?
Are you able to get support?
Yeah, I mean, friends and
Right.
there's only so much you want to talk to.
I can't hear.
Friends, but there's only so much you'd want to talk to family about, right?
Right.
I mean,
Right.
that opens up another issue.
Yes.
Yeah.
This brings up an interesting point about what we were talking about earlier in the evening about your micro to get to your macro. And sometimes feeling like we cannot get out of a situation when sometimes we actually are being tested and pushed so that we can find a support system and extract ourselves from a dangerous situation so we can be better mothers, better friends, better family members, et cetera, if that makes sense.
Of course.
As hard as that is,
Yeah.
it sometimes is necessary.
Yeah.
You have a question?
Yeah.
You have a question? Do you have a question over here? I thought I saw a hand. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm a believer that thoughts create a lot of illness.
They do.
I just got over cancer a couple years ago, and my cancer is supposed to come back, but I'm trying to change my thoughts to have it not come back.
Yeah.
The doctors say it's going to come back because that's just the type of cancer it is. And
What?
Yeah.
What a great doctor.
They all say that because lymphoma, they say, always comes back. There's no cure for it.
What kind?
Lymphoma.
All right.
So non-aggressive lymphoma, there's no cases that it's never come back. but I want to be the first one that it doesn't come back. But I'm afraid sometimes that my thoughts get that my thoughts get away from me, and it's hard to like stop them from going. Or how do I change my thought pattern to
it's
not
like
get
the thought
it again?
pattern I have that Donald Trump's going to win another election. but
Yeah, so I'm just afraid that I'm going to get it again, and I don't want to be afraid because I don't like to live in fear. But then sometimes my life just gets away from me, and then I'm like, oh no, am I doing the same pattern? Then I'm going to create the same cancer again. I want to stop that.
Let me give you a thought. Can I give you a higher truth? There's a difference between a thought pattern and a truth.
Oh, okay.
Okay? A thought pattern is what Teresa Weigel would call a reptile that gets into you. But she had such profound truths, and what you need is a grace. So a thought pattern a grace defeats thought patterns.
Okay.
And Teresa Weigel had a prayer: with God, all things are possible. With God, all things are possible. Mm-hmm. And remember that keep in mind that heaven created everything. It changes everything. And it can change the outcome of anything, including an illness. Including an illness. It can change the course of anything in your body. Anything. And so your mantra is, with God, all things are possible. All things are possible.
I love that. I have one other quick question.
No, I'm not done. So that whenever that thought form comes up, you see it, it's just a reptile. It's a reptile, it's a gecko. Just a reptile, it's a lizard. And you immediately go into prayer and you say, God, with you all things are possible. All things are possible. I am no longer in fear. With you all things are possible. Hover over me, fill me with grace. With you all things are possible. All things are possible. And you say that truth, that prayer, until you are calmed down. And when you calm down, that means the grace has done its job.
Wow, thank you.
I interviewed a woman who was without oxygen for 30 minutes, and she's alive, and she's a surgeon. All things are possible. There are miracles all the time. Don't make that matter, because his truth is not your truth. Your truth is what you believe in your heart, and also your karma and your destiny and all those things. So change your story, right? Change your story. Yes.
Thank you. I was a caregiver for my mother for about 9 years. She passed away in March of this year. She had Alzheimer's. And although there are many positive things that came from that experience, because that was my mother and I love her and I wanted to take care of her, it depleted me in many ways, financially, physically, psychologically, emotionally. I am left feeling exhausted, and I'm a big fan. And I think, well, what's next? Where do I get the strength to put my life back together? I'm a literary editor, and I work from home. And so Nina was home, so it just kind of went to me that I would take care of her. So that's how I ended up not working. Thank you. Thanks for guiding me. How do I listen to what I need? I don't know what to do next, and I'm trying to get inspiration.
Well, wait a minute. Whoa. You do know what to do next.
Sleep.
But you don't want to work. You want to rest.
Yeah.
So that's what you want to do next. So don't say you don't know what to do. That is what you want to do next.
Okay. A lot.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah, if you need permission, not from me, but why don't you, you have to face that you know exactly what you want to do next. You want to rest and recharge, and you feel like you have that coming, and you're very angry.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
you are very angry and resentful over these past years.
Yes, I
Very.
have been.
And you need to kind of acknowledge how unbelievably angry you are that this situation has stolen those years from you. And you have to pick up the pieces now and get on with your life with this gap and financial handicap, and you are enraged.
Yes,
So that's where you're at.
you are right. Correct. Yeah.
Okay?
I don't want to live in that space.
You don't. So what I really would, if you can do this, is take the summer off and have a hell of a good time.
The world will continue to rotate on its axis if you
Take
do that.
the summer
You
off
need
and
to do
have a
that.
hell of a good time.
Yes.
Just enjoy.
You know, nobody said life is fair. I watched 3 people take their last breath. I didn't plan for that. It happened. So we pick up and we go, take the summer off, go dancing, go laugh with your girlfriends, put your oxygen mask on, and you'll be
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, go take
All
it. Go
right?
have a great time.
Go have a great time.
Really sleep in. Watch movies. Walk. Go. Just do whatever you want. What? Talk to me.
Hi. My question is on gut intuition and gut truth. You were talking about
Yeah.
like knowing your truth.
Yeah.
I find that I get these kind of sparks of inspiration, and I don't always know where they come from, if it's like from my mind or from my gut, and so
What difference would it make?
I don't know.
None. So keep going.
I guess I don't. What I guess my question is more like I don't always know. Oh, this is true for me, and I should follow this. How do you develop the skill to trust yourself and have that?
You have to
faith?
act on it.
Just act on it.
Yeah. If you bump into the wall, you have to say, oops. But here's what's true. You know what? I mean, do you know when you're lying to yourself? Do you know what a lie feels like?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Do you know what truth feels like?
It feels fleeting.
What difference does it make? But you know the difference between a lie and truth.
Yes.
Okay, there you go. Truth.
Can you explain gut versus God?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, guidance and gut, it there's, you need to look at it this way, that you have a eau de toilette version, you have a cologne version, and you have a perfume. And you have eau de toilette guidance, and that's called gut instinct. And your gut instinct is engaged from the time you're little. You don't have to, you could eat cow dung, and your intuition, your gut instinct is up and running. It has nothing to do with consciousness. It has nothing to do with diet. Some of the criminals have good gut instinct. It is an animal skill. It's a survival skill. It's the thing that it is what directs us to be adaptable. It's the thing that directs us to say, how am I going to make this stop leaking? And it's the thing that says, grab a hammer. You know, it's that. It's that kind of instinct. It's the thing that says, I smell smoke, get up, I did this. It's that survival. Now, is there a divine behind this? Yes. because we're wired. This is part of our wiring, and our wiring is fundamentally sacred. So don't go with the mythology that God only speaks somehow or other from some up there place. The whole of life is a journey seeking for the moment that we're called. Okay. The cologne level is when you start asking, I wonder, more sophisticated questions about your inner world. So when you shift the focus from wondering about what's out there and what can I have? Where's my stuff? When you start asking inner questions about what should I be doing? Why do I feel this way? When you start asking questions that require a different kind of guidance to maneuver or navigate your interior world, you are upping the bar on your guidance. So now you're going from gut instinct to guidance. But it isn't high guidance. It isn't transpersonal, impersonal, revelatory guidance. Because you're still only asking about you. You're not asking to have some high truth revealed to you on behalf of humanity. You're not Gandhi or Nelson Mandela asking to lead others out of their hell. All you're interested in is getting out of your hell. So at this point, you're just in your guidance. So it's about personal guidance, not about guidance. It's about personal healing, not about higher vision or revelation. You're not interested in helping anyone else heal, the people you don't know. You're interested in you, people you know. So this is the level of personal guidance. And in this way, it's not going to work by having flashes, by having impersonal. This is going to work, the way this guidance works, is that it's organic. It's going to work by hit and miss. It's going to work by you actually having to learn your lesson through hardcore touch and feel, because you will not get it otherwise. You don't learn this way. And you don't. You're still at the dense incarnational stage here. You're too lazy, in other words. When you are learning at the cologne level, you need it to hurt. Otherwise, you won't get off the couch. When I wondered, and if I sound sort of harsh, it's because I know what I'm talking about. I know exactly what I'm talking about. I used to wonder a great deal about why more people did not heal at the speed of light. I gotta stop, I can't sit anymore. Why people didn't heal at the speed of light. At why people couldn't heal faster. And then I realized that healing that fast required a level of belief, a level of trust, a level of self-esteem, a level of inner stamina that most people not only don't have, they don't want to have it. They don't want to have it. So I'll put it out there to you. Here's a question. How many of you No, that's not the way I want to ask it. Do you need to have other people acknowledge your experiences? Do you need to have other people approve of your experiences? Do you need to have people in some way validate an experience for you if that experience is unusual? If something happened to you. And if you say no, I don't believe a word you're saying to me. Not a word. Not a word. Because the need to say to somebody, I've had this idea. What do you think of it? I've had this thought. I've had this experience. Now, a healing is one of those perfume experiences. A miracle is a perfume experience. It's not a cologne and it's not an eau de toilette. Perfume experiences are rare and they are like perfume guidance, revelation, high voltage revelation. It is an experience that only you have. Nobody else has. A cologne experience of guidance. When you say to somebody, I received it on the inner about how I feel. Everybody says that now. There's nothing that's remotely unusual about that. So it's no big deal. Maybe what your feelings are might be different, but the fact that you might say is, my inner self, blah, 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 blah. Everybody knows what the inner self is now, and it's no big deal. But if you had a very serious disease like cancer, and you got up one morning and it's gone, 4th stage cancer, completely gone. You went to bed with it, terminal. 12 hours later, there's not a sign of it. Like this one man who was completely blind, 5% sight, and woke up in the morning. His eyes still cataract, but he had 100% vision. Documented. And the foundress of the college I went to was declared the 8th American saint as a result, because it was believed she intervened and healed him. Now, most people do not have the stamina of soul to be able to withstand the doubts of other people. It's not the support of other people they can take. It's the doubts of other people. It's when other people say to them, I don't believe that happened. Why did that happen to you? How could that happen to you? Are you with me here?
Yeah.
That's the thing that most people cannot handle, is not to have a perfume experience validated. And that's what collapses them. And because that's so intense, that's that level of high voltage, direct guidance. And so it doesn't happen to people. So that's the revelation. Then there's inner guidance that comes through actual hardcore physical struggle. And then there's eau de toilette.
Excellent. Yes.
Hi. I have multiple things that are going on, but one of my
Closer.
one of my most burdening things is I have a problem with sleeping since I'm a child.
I beg your pardon?
Sleeping. I have a problem with sleeping since I'm a child. I go to bed,
Okay.
and my mind just races and races and races over nothing.
Are you going to ask me why?
Yes.
I mean, cut to the chase.
Okay.
I don't know. Keep going. Next question.
Okay. I have chronic pain over osteoporosis, and I have extreme inflammation that when I get in.
They're probably connected.
Okay.
The lack of sleep.
But I do go to, I mean, I do sleep, but it takes me hours to mentally unwind, and I'm thinking about nothing like, did I put the laundry in? What did that lady say to me?
Your OCD, do you think you're OCD?
No. I don't think so. I mean, I might have a little OCD, like when it comes to making sure the plants are facing a certain way, or I really don't have OCD severe. I just like things to be even and stuff like that. I'm not OCD about, I don't know. Very mild, I have it. But I just want to know, why does my mind race for hours?
Jesus, I don't know.
I was abused a lot as a child, and I'm wondering, is that why I can't sleep? Because
What may I ask your name?
Wendy.
Wendy? You know what, honey? I'm just shooting from the hip here.
Okay.
But I'm getting some impressions, truly.
Okay.
But I see you as a little girl. I'm getting impressions of you in your bedroom as a little girl. Very unsafe place.
Correct.
Very unsafe place. But the tendency to organize your bedroom, to organize everything in your bedroom, was how you ordered a world that had no order.
You're extremely correct.
And so you started to order your life. I see your bedroom. I see you totally ordering your bedroom, especially after abuse.
Oh my God, you're freaking me out. Yeah.
That's exactly what you did. You got out of bed and you put everything and you ordered it again and again and again and again and again and again and again. And that is how you dealt with being violated.
Oh my God, you're exactly on target.
And so that's how you began to reprogram your sleep pattern. Sleep became unsafe.
Yes. So how do I get over that? Because I'm safe now.
I know, honey, but the imprint is so deep. It's so deep because it happened before you were 7. And the imprint is so deep. So deep.
You're amazing.
Sometimes heaven helps.
Sometimes what?
Heaven helps. I'm recommending, and I'm actually being shown, that what would be of great help to you would be for you to take out a yoga mat before you go to bed and do some stretching and deep breathing, but specifically stretch out your body and breathe very deeply, 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 and relax your whole body before you go to bed.
Okay.
But take time to do this because you're wound up like a spring.
Yes.
And especially since you simply tell yourself all the time you can't sleep. So you have to actually introduce a different pattern. And that pattern is going to be deep breathing and a little yoga stretching before you go to bed for at least 10 minutes.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you so much.
You got it.
All right.
Okay, let's just do, what do we got?
I want to end with a prayer because we have to end with a prayer.
We have to end.
But I also need you all to hear these 5 choices to leave you with this. So take out your notepad and write this down, or go to YouTube and watch the TED Talk. Here are her 5 choices tips.
And before she goes there and you take out your pencil, I am going to tell you again, take my retreat. It's
End
going
of
to be
July.
one of the best things, and it's on mace.com, and the description, and you can register for it. It'll be up in a week. Mace.com.
5 choices you can make that will change your life and help you heal. Number 1, live in integrity. Okay, remember we talked about liars never heal. Number 2, pass on wisdom and not woe. Pass on wisdom and not woe. Number 3, take risks. Because when you start feeling ill, you look at your life and regret shows up, and that just stops everything. Take risks. Number 4, change your words. I can sleep at night. I am healed from my cancer. Change your words. And number 5, bless your day. End your night. And to that, we leave it to Caroline, who is working on a book of prayers because her words are prayerful and fabulous. So please, let's end it with a prayer. Caroline, take it away.
When you go to sleep tonight, this is what I want you to do. This is Teresa of Avila. This is what I learned from Teresa of Avila. When I want you to imagine that you are sleeping under stars and you can see the stars. So you pray like this: angels, take me out of my body and take me to the healing realm. Work with me through the night. Heal my disease. Heal my suffering. Let the healing angels work on my pain through the night. Let them relieve the suffering in my heart and the pain in my mind. Help me to forgive through the night those I cannot work with during the day. Help me to forgive through the night all that I struggle with during the day. Pray with me during the night. Hover over me and deliver me back to my body, healed before the sun rises. Amen.
Miracles happen every day. Believe in miracles and do to others as you wish done to you. Thank you, everybody. And thank you, Caroline Myss, for this wonderful conversation.
Thank you, everyone.
MYSS.com, mace.com, and we'll see you again.